Of the market here this week. It was supposed to be kind of a quiet week, but now tomorrow gets really interesting. Look at the leadership so far this week, and you're going to find a very positive message about the economy. Perhaps one that needs some validation by retail sales tomorrow, but generally we've had weeks of trend now building to get us here. Most important charts that I see are the regional banks and the blue and the transports. The cash tag doing a lot of work there on the DJT. Dow Jones Transport Index. Obviously, they look pretty similar. They're very cyclical in nature, very economically dependent, these groups. A little more tied into an economy and a theme that is about recovery or improvement, maybe not reflation. But at this point, some arguing an early cycle type of shift after the Fed cut rates 50 basis points. A lot of this stuff starts to add up for potentially a heat up in the economic cycle. We've seen a lot of failed starts for the regional banks. This looks like a real breakout. Financials have been well supported by the earnings this week. It looks like the commercial real estate concerns, that ticking time bomb has been diluted. It also seems like the big banks that acquired assets from the distressed ones a couple years ago are doing just fine. So that gives a lot of confidence into the economy. The transports are looking pretty good after J.B. Hunt. CSX wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. These things are pointing towards a little bit more of a cyclical bend in the market and what one could argue is a value rotation. Value factor has been outperforming. And keep in mind, we got the new high in the S&P 500 without big tech leading. It's great that NVIDIA is still sitting near the records and Apple is too, but we've seen a good amount of breadth shifting in favor of things that are more cyclical. A lot of false breakouts by the small caps, by the regional banks, and by the value trade in general over the last year, but this one looks like it could be very real. Look at the way the 10-year yield's been trading next to the dollar. We got a bit of a bid into the bond market. I don't think that's what you want to see. You want yields to keep going up if you believe generally in the recovery of the economy or an acceleration in the economy. And the fact that the dollar's been strong these last 48 hours while yields have come down suggests that bonds, if tomorrow's numbers go well, will have to start selling off again. If the data tomorrow come in strong, get ready for a pop in yields. I think the market should be able to handle it, and you might have a little back and forth because sometimes the small caps and the value trade do panic a little bit if yields go up too much. But we generally know that there is a cap to how aggressive the Fed can get, and it's pretty dovish right now. Basically, you're just going back and forth between 25 or 50, but the concept of hikes is pretty much out the window. And if we don't have to worry about that, then the message right now of the rise in the dollar and the yields is that we don't need cuts because the economy should recover. That's the message that's echoed by the value trade, the regionals, the transports, and the small caps. The catch, of course, is that when you get more cyclical in nature, you have to have the economy live up to expectations. So there's a little bit more risk attached to that. The regional bank trade, obviously a little bit more speculative than perhaps the major financial trade. The small caps, a little bit more speculative than the big caps that have been so reliable now, centered around tech. So with the notion of the value rotation does come a little bit of a higher beta, a little bit of a riskier trade, and that's where you're starting to see the crypto markets warm up too. Bitcoin's been in the long-term channel to the downside, but now multiple days hanging out above that trend. It's not a breakout just yet, so the green light's not on crypto, but I think it's time to turn it yellow from the red because this has been a very reliable trend that now is bending. Hasn't quite released crypto to the upside, but if we are going to have that type of value rotation, the potential for Bitcoin to join in is there. So we get a yellow light, stocks still green, bonds might have to go red, and the dollar green if tomorrow's data are warm, but this is an encouraging message about the economy. Let's hope the retail sales, industrial production, and jobless claims tomorrow live up to the expectations the market's now built in. Have a great night.